Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the greatest show on earth. It is the AC Show. I am Chris, aka MrCarrellScience, and this guy over here is
Aaron, aka the handy outdoor nerd. Thank you,
It is
everybody, for joining
great
us.
to be with you guys today. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. Those of you who have been waiting in chat so patiently, greatly appreciate it. Got some really cool stuff headed in for the show. We've got some cool prints. We've got some news. We've got some information we'd like to spread about really us as content creators and as influencers in the community. What are our responsibilities? And on top of all of that, we've got a couple of really wonderful guests lined up in the wings. One of them just popped in. So we've got this guy over here, who is Josh. One day he got bored, and the rest is history, I suppose. And we also have, look at this.
Oh, hey.
Joe, 3D printing professor. What is going on, man?
Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Hey, Josh, how you doing, man? Sorry, I'm going to have to whisper tonight. We're a little ASMR on my side.
Oh, that's fine. You're right there by your mic. We can hear you perfectly fine. So Chris knew about Josh joining us. I did not tell him that you were going to be popping on.
Nice surprise.
Surprise.
I said I invited another person onto the show. Well, I won't tell you who it is. We'll see whenever he pops in.
Honestly, I thought that you were going to say Jimmy because I know that Jimmy and Josh are friends. And so I was like,
true.
I was like, maybe it's going to be Jimmy. And then I just happened to see, and I'm glad that you had mentioned something because the way I've got my webcam set up right now, I actually can't see the section of my screen where I have to click to load new people onto the stream. So if you hadn't said anything, Joe, you might have been waiting in the wings for a little while.
Well, I'm patient.
Awesome. Looks like we might have lost Aaron for a second. With his job, he's at a place where his Wi-Fi connection is not the best, and so it's hopefully he'll come back. If I start to loop out, then we might have to restart the stream. But I think that we're okay for right now. So just to throw a few things out there.
I'm tweeting this out to my
phone. I can throw a few things out there. We are doing a few things with this stream, including one of the things that was, oh, he's gone, man. One of the things that was highly requested last week was, Mr. Carroll, if we get 15 likes on the video, you have to eat a rotten banana. And so while I don't have an entirely rotten banana, I do have one that's getting pretty old.
No, we don't have to worry about like any allergy. Like in my family, when we eat those bananas that are that old, they hurt some of our mouths. Are you okay with that?
I'm not too worried about it. So I spent some time as a missionary in Brazil, and in Brazil, let me tell you, bananas are a big deal. And so I've eaten quite a few older bananas, and I'm not too concerned about it. So I will say,
my mission was in Singapore, and the bananas we got out there, the varieties that you just don't see out here.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Like the various plantains and what have you?
Well, like the best ones were just these tiny little finger-length bananas.
Are you talking about the really fat ones?
Nope. They're just really small. They're like baby bananas. They're not babies. That's the full length of them.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that I had in Brazil that were kind of small, they were pretty short, but they were kind of stocky.
I've had those
little guys. Oh yeah, they're pretty good. And I mean, you walk into the supermarket and there's like, you know how you walk in and there's apples everywhere. You go to Walmart and there's like 25 different varieties of apples. It's like that with bananas in Brazil. Oh yeah, all over the place. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a bite of this overly ripe banana, and hopefully it doesn't hurt my mouth. Now you've got me concerned, Joe.
I'm just saying, sorry. Hey, if you don't mind, I didn't get much of a chance to mess with my audio before jumping onto here. How am I? Is there a buzz? I feel like there's a buzz. Is that from me? Let me see if this is better.
My laptop fan is so loud that
Yeah.
I don't hear a buzz from you. I just hear my own fan. So you sound great to me.
Same boat here.
You sound great to me. Oh, someone's back. Look who decided to join us again, huh?
So I moved my computer to try to get something done real quick, and my laptop battery's kind of crap, and it doesn't notify me whenever it's gotten to a certain percentage, and it just died. It was just like boom. I'm just like, oh no.
Oh, your laptop died.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
So then I plugged it in and got it to boot back up. I had to wait for it to like power down on the watch my power button to actually go dark, and then I was like, all right, I can plug it in, turn it on, and then it said it's doing an update. I'm like, no.
Nice.
That Windows 10 update to make sure that everybody's security is up to date, which, hope everybody's doing their Windows 10 updates.
I don't want to talk about the Windows 10 update while I'm looking at my Windows 7 laptop right now.
Oh, well. I mean, you don't have to worry about it then.
Well, I mean, I've got a Windows 10. I mean, I've got a nice computer setup that I custom built, and I upgraded recently the CPU and the graphics card, and it's a really nice system, but it's in the other room, and this is where I wanted to do the live stream. So I've got my 10-year-old Windows 7 laptop, and that's just what I'm stuck with.
So,
yeah. So anyways, wanted to go ahead and start off the show with some cool prints. I will go first only because I've been really looking forward to this. So this is actually perfect timing. My son, 6 years old, Valentine's Day is coming up, and my wife has been so excited because she wanted to make some Valentine's Day gifts for his class. And she found this thing online. You know how I personally also surf Pinterest, but my wife was surfing Pinterest and she saw this really fun idea with these little plastic toys. And I said, I have some better plastic toys that I could 3D print that fit the same theme. And they are dinosaurs. I don't know if anybody recognizes.
I know those dinosaurs.
They look vaguely familiar.
Yeah, this is the low poly T-Rex designed by Joe Larson, 3D printing professor.
Two thumbs right here.
Yeah, so we made these little cards that say, "Thank you for being my friendosaurus." And my son even hand wrote the kids' names, and he wrote his name, to and from. And then I've got this big box that's just full of these dinosaurs that are all different colors and stuff. That he chose a dinosaur for each one of his friends. And we 3D printed up a whole bunch of these dinosaurs. And I just said, my wife was going to go to like the dollar store and look for a bunch of little plastic dinosaurs. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I have low poly dinos. This is perfect opportunity here.
And they all print without supports, and they print real fast. I mean, they're really good for that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it was great. It only took a few days. I sliced 3 dinosaurs on the build plate at a time. I could have done a lot more, but I just did 3 at a time, and then
0 infill.
I did, I think, like 10% infill, just because I made the walls a little thin and I didn't want it to accidentally.
There are a few parts where like it dips down in the middle, so a little bit of infill is good, but some of them will actually print with 0 infill. It's kind of surprised me.
I would bet most of them would print with 0%, especially if you did like 4 or 5 perimeters, and you probably print every single one of them, no problem.
Yeah.
So that's the first cool print that I got. The next cool print that I've got is I was at school the other day, and I had this big order of office supplies come in. And when these office supplies came in, I realized that because I teach robotics, there are some supplies that I don't use very often, like Scotch tape. So I was looking at I got some rolls of Scotch tape in, and I realized I don't have a tape dispenser in my classroom. And so I have all these students, asking me lately, they tear their notebook page on accident or something. Hey, Mr. Carroll, do you got a piece of Scotch tape? And I'm like, I don't have a tape dispenser. And so I decided
It's on Thingiverse.
why not 3D print one? And so I 3D printed this sweet tape dispenser. It's already got, you know, a nice serrated edge on the front to tear the tape. And I just threw this on the build plate. And I said, you know, is there anything else that I'd like? And this isn't something that I was intending on using for cool prints, but it's a little R2D2 head that I just kind of threw on the build plate at the same time as the tape dispenser. And the reason why I thought this is a really cool print is it didn't exactly turn out the way that I intended it to. There are a few things that it could have printed better, but because of the way it has to print with that little knob on the bottom, it required some supports. And I didn't look at my support settings. I don't usually print things with supports because most things that I do,
weakness.
Usually whenever I design something myself or whatever, I try to design it so it doesn't need supports because I'm not a fan of I've never had a ton of luck with getting supports to remove. But this is the support that came off of the bottom. I didn't even have the settings for the support percentage or anything pulled up, but I thought it was really interesting that it almost has this little brim on the sides, on the inside, that printed to help it adhere to the build plate. And I thought that it was just really interesting how these support settings were basically stock. I didn't do anything to them. And then you can see the effect was on the bottom of this thing that printed. I mean, it printed flawlessly. You can't even tell that it was printed on top of supports. It just looks so good. And so I just thought that this little coin of support underneath, it's pretty strong in and of itself.
What slicer is that?
Cura. Yeah. And I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even have the setting visibility on. I just said, add supports, you know, anything that's touching the build plate needs supports. Go and put it on. And it just generated this really, really amazing support that is super strong, sturdy, adhered to the build plate really, really well, and works perfectly for my print.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like the guts of an oil filter almost, or the fuel filter. Although that's impressive from Kira, because I've never had really good results anytime I've had to like lift something off support material. It's always kind of gross. So if I have to use support material, I always kind of aim at where the part of the print no one's going to notice is there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I never had good results with Cura supports for the longest time. But ever since update like 3.6 or 3.7 or something like that, I think it went from 3.6 to 4, but like ever since that 3.6 upgrade on Cura, a lot of stuff just kind of got super upgraded. And then ever since then, it just, you can't hardly tell the difference between slicers anymore because every slicer has really good settings, just stock.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I recently did a print that needed a lot of supports, and they still suck to remove sometimes. You know, you gotta sand them and scrape them off, and but like I say, you put them where you don't. The one print that we always show people at the Makerspace, we have a Millennium Falcon, and somebody printed it like the Millennium Falcon, but because the Millennium Falcon is it's essentially a flying saucer, the bottom with the supports looks terrible.
Yeah.
Then I show them another one and in fact, I've got one here. This isn't a Millennium Falcon. It's terrible. It's the Millennium Enterprise.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
If I can get it where it's not offending the green screen. No, I think it's just the light is crossing into that. But to print this without supports, all you have to do, or with minimal supports, is to stand it up like this. So the supports just go on that back edge and nobody sees them. So, like you say, put them where nobody will see them. So.
Exactly. So I know I've talked about this before on a stream probably, but I printed these guys and I printed them again. They are for a belt sander. They are the gears. So this goes on the motor itself, and I printed it for a guy. And the original piece had a, just like this one does, that little flat spot there. But the actual shaft for the motor does not. This is just how it is for the motor. So I don't know why the people that designed it gave it a little flat spot, because it made it harder to put on there and tilted. And it did on the original one. So this one I modified and put screw holes so he can actually put a plate on the outside to help keep the belt on if he needed to. And this one he had me modify. So right here my finger is, this was all smooth and lower down, and I just extended the teeth up. So if this sets just off a little bit, it's gonna allow that belt to not have to pull off. So
nice.
So I printed those for him. Those are
functional prints.
Oh yeah, I love functional prints, and that's a lot of what I do. Is I do practical printing on it. If only someone didn't take that name.
Are those the gears that you modeled?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you use to model those?
Fusion.
Well, I still like you anyways. No, I'm just kidding. Fusion's great.
Well, so my original background is in Blender. That's what I started with back in the day. Yep. And I can't use the new Blender on my laptop because it's just too old. So I can't, and because I've been out of using Blender for a while because I didn't know the new interface that they had back then. And so now I want to use the new interface they have now. I literally can't until I get myself a new laptop. So
that sucks. But Fusion will run on it?
Yeah.
Never seen that before. That's interesting.
Well, yeah, it's there's something with the new Blender on like the graphics card that it needs to run it that I just don't have in my laptop. So
I hope I never get to that day.
Yeah, I can do 1.79 and 2.79. I can't do the
2.79.
2.79. I can't do the 2.8.
Okay.
Yeah, once I hit that one, it just won't work.
Sucks.
Yeah. So I was very disappointed. All right. So I told this to Chris whenever we were backstage talking before you guys joined in. So for every like this video gets, I will eat one of these.
Oh, the super salty, kind of chewy, like a tire Australian ones. They're like the Swedish equivalent.
I like the red ones. I don't like black licorice.
I was going to say, do you not like black licorice? Because I don't love it, but that doesn't seem like a punishment.
Well, I don't like it. The last time I had it, there was the Twizzlers. Although I do like this brand's stuff, but they were Twizzlers, and it was, I don't know, close to 20 years ago that I had them, and I've not had it since. So how many likes do we have, Chris?
On the video currently?
Yeah.
I'm gonna need a second. I got distracted with a side project here. Sorry.
How's your mouth doing, Chris?
Oh, it's great, man. It's great.
Tastes like it smells. Oh, this tastes kind of like the black jelly beans.
Yeah. So, Josh, what you been up to?
Well, I'm sales, so this is the worst time of year for me. It's finally ended. Done a little bit of 3D printing. I did this because I am not super famous and cool like some people.
I know these guys.
So for like my 100 follower giveaway, I made a ridiculous frying pan that had clearly been smashed into someone's face. So there's a depression on the backside too.
How did you do that?
And then lightly dusted it with silver. So pretty. Yeah. Yeah. And then I just have to print the sign, but that's going to go on the wall in the kitchen saying, You do not have to eat my food, but you have to respect it. Because horrible sense of humor. And then today I was trying to play with TPU because I've never actually played with it.
I saw your question on Twitter earlier.
Yeah, so I think it boils down to I just think the print speed too high because I'm making this overly complicated drain stopper where I have this nice sort of sci-fi looking solid bit, and then the TPU will be like a gasket that pressure fits onto the centerpiece with a little bit of a ring coming out on either side. Because, you know, I could go to the store and buy something for $1 something, but why not just, you know, yeah.
All right, so look up Kitty Tech, their website, and download the version of Cura that they have. They've got a TPU setting on it. So just copy the TPU settings from that.
Well, just drop the speed down to 20 millimeters per second or whatever it is.
Someone recommended 12, which
12 even. Yeah.
It seems a little ridiculous, but I've never touched TPU and it seems temperamental.
Are you using a Bowden or a direct drive?
Bowden. I'm just doing this on a E-Tech A10.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does do better on direct drive, but you can do on a Bowden. You do want to.
You just gotta go low and slow and hot.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
don't forget that heat.
Cranking up the temp. That and you did a video forever ago. I forget which printer it was. It was that one that had like literally one button, and you could only do one.
The Neva. I've still got it here.
Yeah. And you were talking about how they gave you flex filament and how it was just a nightmare to try and load up into the tube because, you know,
you're pushing a rope. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a little bit of an issue with it and it felt like I was pushing it 10 miles, but it wasn't the worst. So.
Yeah. Every new material is a new adventure.
Well, totally different.
Whether you're jumping to PET-G or ABS or TPU, and so yes, these are the adventures with TPU.
Yeah, and I found it interesting because I've never touched it before, and it's the first spool I've ever seen that, and I have my printer just sitting here, but it doesn't have a temperature range. And normally every spool I get, you know, all PLA has some kind of loose guide, so I'm like, cool, we're going to put that in manual and slowly bump temp till I can get the filament to feed through nicely.
I mean, on the one hand, half the time those temperatures are completely wrong.
Or just a ridiculous, like, 40-degree range.
Yeah. But on the other hand, it's nice to at least have a ballpark to start with.
Yeah. I mean, it's not too horrible from the normal PLA I'm doing. I think I have it at like 210. I kind of think I might do it at 215.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Although it off-gases like a champ. It smells.
Oh, yeah. It smells awful. And I would say you might even want to consider as high as 230.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, let's see. I'm gonna.
It depends on the brand that you're using, but I've used some of them that if you take it up to 230, it smooths right out. And I've had others that are around 220. It's fine.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because of the off-gassing. It smells really bad, but it's that weird smell where you can't
open your window, Josh. Well-ventilated room.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I use a room that has a cross breeze. I have a probably not up to spec air filter, and then I have a fan blowing directly out the window, and I have this nice sort of cyclone that pulls out, and I have fans there. And to be ridiculous, I have an AFO just like Jimmy right above it because house fires. Yeah.
Well, good, man. Safety first, Josh.
Well, yeah. So, funny story. So, I was looking at 3D printers about a year ago because that's how long I've been doing it. And looking at ads, reviews, assorted, and I saw the, ANET A8, and I'm like, oh, it looks good. And then Jimmy goes,
only $200.
so there's this guy named Joe who does videos, and here's a link. And I'm like, oh, house fires.
Honestly, the ANET A8 has been linked to every bad. I'm noticing I'm peaking my levels. Let me turn those down a bit for you guys. Sorry about that.
No,
I
you're
switched
fine.
mics. Yeah, ANET A8 has been linked to every single 3D printer related fire that has happened.
It's annoying too because they do have that fucking runaway code in there. They just have it deactivated.
Well, and I think I know why we don't have to get into it. They have fixed that in their newer printers. It bothers me that they don't want to open up their old boxes and reflash the firmware on their old printers, but their new printers do have that re-enabled.
Yeah.
Well, man, those guys that buy those ANET printers, they just must be total jerks, right?
Oh, no. They're just trying to get a cheap printer.
I just meant because I and Aaron both own an ANET A8.
No.
So,
Yeah, you can't blame people for
trying to save money on a printer.
Exactly.
Well, everyone says it's a halfway decent printer. They get good results.
Yeah.
It's just
So here's someone who is very popular, very famous on YouTube, and bought an ANET A8 to do some printing. And I don't know if you all watch Chinbeard. Punish Props. So he did a video on with his ANET. He made a helmet. He 3D printed a helmet.
I actually bought my ANET A8 as well. I bought it for the Royal Game of Kickstarter that I did years and years ago. And yeah, that was my delivery printer. It's a good printer.
Oh yeah. Well, see, and whenever I got mine, I ordered a external MOSFET to put on it. So
that's one fix. Well, that's one common fix for it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's always that one printer that people are gonna hate on. Like my most reliable, one of my favorite printers is my TiVo Tornado, which is Joe's personal favorite that he's never gotten to work. It probably only works because I, did a trade with Jimmy and he made it all nice. But
see, I've wanted a Tornado so bad, and you can't ever get them really.
Yeah, I didn't have a good experience with my Tornado, and tore it apart on camera for a gag. So I don't have a Tornado anymore.
Yeah,
tornado ticket.
Yeah, it makes me giggle. I named it Joe because I'm, mean.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, no, but I like it. I mean, it doesn't do detail, but I only use it for big prints because it has a decent print volume. I mean, mine's I think like 300 by 300 by 400, or no, I think it's like 330 by 330. I don't know. Bigger than my ANET.
I recently got the new printer from JG Aurora, their A5S, so it's a large format 3D printer, but it's got all the bells and whistles. And that one does big prints and it does little prints, and I really enjoy it so far. It's been good. Actually, let me show you what I printed on it. I guess I'll jump in and take my turn. Here, let's see. Here we go. So I don't know if you guys saw this on Twitter.
I actually watched you model some of those on
Twitch. On Twitch, yeah. If you go to Twitch, you can watch me model some of these. So I modeled a whole stand. I didn't show it in this video, darn it. But there is a drive shaft underneath there with gears attached to it, and it's making the motion. And this is the electronics. There's a little PWM board there that controls the speed, and at this point it all stops working. It broke, so I'll go back to the beginning when it was working. But yeah, the Singer swivels back and forth a little bit, and the piano player rocks back and forth, and the drummer rocks up and down, and it's all done off of one motor, one drive shaft.
Yeah, and aren't all the gears and stuff underneath like 3D printed too?
Yeah. The gears are all 3D printed. I do have a wooden dowel that they're all mounted on.
Mm-hmm.
But I spent all day today testing and adjusting and fixing and reprinting gears and putting them back on to get this sucker to this point today. And now that I'm done with it, I have to put it aside. It's time to be done with this project because I have other projects I need to focus on for a little while. But this one's clearly not done.
No, that's cool.
So that actually brings up the next thing we want to talk about is a really exciting upcoming project that you've got going on. I did not know you were going to be on the stream today, but very excited to have you here. I was looking around at what I wanted to show off on the stream, and I came across let's see if I can get this to pull up and see what happens here.
Yep.
Came across printablock.com, and printablock.com, in case you guys don't know, is a website you can go to if you'd like to look at some of the new and upcoming things that 3D Printing Professor has been doing, including an upcoming Kickstarter that is going to be. Can I say?
There's been a pivot.
Oh, pivot.
Pivot?
Here,
I'm
hold
really
on for a second. I think you guys are going to like this. This is
Okay.
I haven't announced this publicly yet, but
Let me
You get to hear it. Yeah, I guess guys get to hear it first on the AC show.
Hey, look at this. It doesn't get much fresher news than this, you know?
That's right. So this is what I've been working on. Instead of what I was working on, now I am producing mech parts. So, we've got the cockpit part that locks into it. We've got the legs and hold on for a second. There's a side cannon here. Here we go. Cool little, or it can be a top cannon or whatever. But we're building. So we're making interlocking bricks with that. Okay, so you guys know about the Lego fiasco that's been going on, right?
Well, we've had you on this and talked about that.
Okay.
With all the takedowns and all that jazz.
Yeah. And because of that, I started working on a new Lego. Well, that particular project, I still have yet to report on it, but that particular project is still it's ongoing, but it's not really going anywhere. I did make a Lego that prints with less tolerance than normal Legos do. It has flex points, and so you can have a printer that's not well calibrated and still print these parts. But in the process, I started thinking about, and let me just pull it up right here. This is the heart of the whole thing right here. This is the block. Okay. This connector works from any side, any angle. And I feel bad. I've got all my prints at my office. I didn't know I was going to be on tonight, or I'd have prepared a little better. And then you've got this connector that goes between them. And I mean, this connector has gotten so complex in getting it to be able to, again, the goal is to work on a crap printer and still interlock and let go from any angle and from any direction. And so now that I've got this, you can stack together 2 or 5 or 6 of these and make your base shape. And then I am putting, we've got like the chicken walker. And, we can put the chicken walker leg on there, and we could, let's see if I can do this without messing things up, but we could throw it up here and add, side cannon. Oops, that didn't work. We're in, there we go. There we go. Put a side cannon up on the side here or something like that. Maybe move the cockpit up. So you can build your own random configuration of mechs. And so mechs are the new focus. Mechs are where it's going to be for the Kickstarter. And we'll start with mechs. We might go to airplanes, might go to tanks or cars or stuff later. But it's going to start with mechs.
I saw the Twitter where you showed some very ship and plane designs that looked really cool.
That was where it was going to start, but I decided that might be pushing it a little too close to an already existing project.
Fair enough.
And I didn't want to step on their toes, and so I took it a slight, like I say, just a pivot, just a slight different direction with it.
Point of departure.
I
said point of departure.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And it was just, out of respect, because I had the idea of modular ships for a long time, since low poly dinos. I think I was talking about that, and then these guys come out and they start this project, and it does. I mean, people love it, but they never went anywhere with it. I feel like if I were to try and do it now, I'd be pulling the rug out from under them, and I don't want to do that just yet. Not until this is established as its own thing. But that's why I called it print a block, because I can do anything with print a block. I can make print a block mechs. I can make print a block airplanes. I can make print a block tanks. I can make print a block, people. Why not?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think this has got some legs.
Yeah. And it's universal enough where people can really make it their own too.
Yes.
I think the community would really appreciate.
I think I will definitely, once the Kickstarter's up and running, I will be releasing. I don't want to say open source, because that's kind of a weird thing in this sort of project. I'm not really. I mean, the source is Blender. If you hand Blender to the open source people, they're like, "Ew, what's wrong with you?"
Yep.
That's what I work in, man.
Tinkercad, just respect that we're making stuff.
I mean, yeah, no, it's. But I will probably be releasing the negatives and positives and the bricks that you can build your own.
Yeah.
So that's the plan. And so, yeah, that'll be my next Kickstarter. I am frantically trying to get a couple of mechs together so that I can build a couple of different demos of them and get them out, because I really, really wanted to launch the Kickstarter in February. And I'm not getting quite the run up to it that I need.
Well, I'm saving my pennies.
Well, it's going to be a cheap entry too. It's only going to be. I learned from I think the Chiba Malls would have done much better if I had made the entry $10 instead of $25. And so I'm gonna learn from that. I'm gonna do this one at just a $10 level. $10 gets you everything. So.
Yeah, I was telling Chris before the stream that we were talking about this, and I didn't tell him that I had invited you on.
Appreciate the invite.
Just kind of talking about it. I was like, I'll put a message to him saying that we need info about it. And then, said, there's a pivot and stuff. And I was just like, I'm just going to send him the link so he can join us. But
there you go.
Chris has backed everyone that you've done, and I have yet to have the
low poly dinos.
Since low poly dinos, I have yet to have the actual chance to do so. And I told him I'm going to back this one because I would like to have all that I can just print. I mean, one, it'd be cool. I mean, yes, I'm going to be like 33 soon, but I don't care. I mean, I've got a 1-year-old son. Yeah.
I'm turning 37 soon, so I can give him a little grief. Yeah.
Well, and what's fun about these bricks is when I set the dimensions of them, I was already working on the Lego replacements, right? And so I made them be the size of a 2x2 Lego. So conceivably, without much effort, I could slice off the bottom of one of those and put a Lego compatible base on them. and
Nice.
then a print-a-block compatible top on them, and you could combine Legos and print-a-blocks.
So you could take your kind of chassis that has the wheels and stuff put on it, and you could do this, and you just have a rollable.
Why not?
Mobile
Why
suit.
not?
Yeah.
So what you need to do is you just need like a flat panel that's got that what is it, the 8-point star that you've got.
I've only got 4. I've only got the 4-point.
4-point. I thought that it had 8 points. Maybe my brain was mistaken.
That was the previous project, and the problem with an 8-point star is you have overhangs that aren't printable. So let me go back to it real fast.
Yeah, if you got just the 4 points, it makes it a little more doable.
You need a flat panel that's got the 4-point on the top, and underneath it has the female leg.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, each side is just a 4-point, 4 directional base.
Quick question: do you think it's scalable, or do you think that would affect the pressure points when you're pushing it together?
I mean, it'll affect the pressure points, but the way that I've designed it, there's 0. Okay, let me show you the connection. I'm really proud of this because it took many iterations to get these two to mate together. Okay. All right, let's see if I can do this. All right. So this is okay, well, let's see if we can do this. There. Okay. So this right here is the insert that's going into it, and this right here is the hole. And notice how the hole just touches the insert at this point here, right there, and at this point right there.
Yep.
Then if we look at it from the top, oh yeah, we can't do that. There we go. Okay. There's a very small clearance on the side, and then there's a very tight hold right back here where the hole just holds onto that snap, and those pressure points make it so that if your printer is crap, it only has to meet at those pressure points. It doesn't have to meet down the whole length of it. And so a little bit of being off, and the fact that the particular shape of this joint here gives it some flex.
Yeah.
It will mate and hold, and there might be a little bit of wiggle. So if you scale it up, those tolerances aren't going to be affected. I think, and I haven't tried it. I like to say, early days of this thing, and when I get something together of a like test out pack, I will send you guys all those STLs so you can try them out, make them bigger, make them smaller, try whatever you want.
Well, Joe,
1000% scale printable block. Am I right?
Why not? In my head when I'm making the mechs, I'm thinking that one of these blocks is about 2 meters. So I don't know how I'm feeling about making that life size, but if you want to use a filament, it's up to you.
So I greatly appreciate that you're going to send it to us to let us test. I will have 3 printers to print that on. I've got my ANET, which actually I've changed my board out on that. I don't know if you saw anything that I did on like the little live Twitter broadcast that I did a couple nights back and last week and stuff. So I flashed my MKS Gen V 1.4 board with Marlin 2. And then the other night, I took my ANET board and then I bootloaded it, and then I flashed it with Marlin 2.
Ooh, how'd that go?
It worked. It took it, and I got thermal runaway protection turned on it.
Well, and there's more than just that on Marlin too. They did a whole lot of things with backlash and
yeah. There's
acceleration
a bunch of settings on there that you can do. Just baby stepping is different options. I mean, there's a lot, but I'm using the TH3D version of it.
Hmm.
So they've got kind of it simplified for people.
Hmm.
And I hadn't ever installed Marlin on a board, so I wanted to give them a try, kind of go through that way.
Cool.
It worked. I mean, so I follow kind of their direction on how to, bootload my ANET board, and then go through and just do my MKS board, and then I'll toss all that on there. And then I realized that I did not toss on, whenever I did my MKS board, I did not toss on the power loss recovery. So I went to go and reload it on there, and then I got errors saying that it couldn't connect to my board. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. So I'm probably going to have to flash the bootloader on that to erase it, and then reload Marlin with the power loss recovery.
Sounds good. Yeah, keep us up to date on that.
So, and I don't do a whole lot. I've not done a lot with Arduinos and stuff like that growing up. I mean, I've been very, handy and playing with things, electronics and all that growing up. I do have plans in the future, soon hopefully, to start doing some videos. I'm going to have to do a couple of videos on flashing those, coming from the perspective of someone who's not done a lot of that. Then I also, as Chris knows, I've got a Arduino starter kit that I got from some guy that I bought off of Facebook Marketplace. And
is this just like a big box of Arduino parts and
yeah, you do the projects, and it's got the book inside to help go through.
I really I found a couple of those that in fact I did a video about that, about which one to get, but in particular there's a book that was put out by Freenode, and this book makes me so happy. Just the fact that it exists, but it's taught me so much.
Yeah, so the Arduino starter kit that I got, it has the book, kind of going through and walking through it, so I was super excited about that.
Is it the Elgu one, or is it the Freenode one?
I don't think it's the Freenode one. Let me see.
Get you the Freenode one. Trust me, it's better. It makes you type in the code, and boy, that makes you learn it.
It might be the Freenode, because I do have to. It does have the code.
Well, if it's not the Freenode, I'd love to hear about it, because I'd love to get an additional resource for that stuff.
All right, so
I would just like to learn that stuff in the first place.
What's that?
I said I would just like to learn that stuff in the first place.
Yeah.
Because my background just comes from pretty much fine arts, drawing, painting, sculpting, all that jazz. So, I mean, I always grew up around computers, but,
And I'd be very curious to see how you would do with it, because my background is software development, so I was able to transfer those skills very easily to an Arduino. And I don't know, Josh, if you know anything about functions, or if you know anything about any of that stuff.
Really rudimentary, because I was raised by computer programmers.
Okay.
And that's why I did fine arts.
I've got a little bit of fine arts in me and a little bit of software development, and then I did software development for 10 years. And now with these Kickstarters, I'm getting back into the fine arts, and I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
No, your fine arts is good. I've seen you go through and build things. You understand your fundamentals just fine. So I would not harsh on your art background.
Well, these mechs have been the trick to making a good mech, it seems to me, is just making it juicy. So many little rivets and little bits, and just don't have any flat surface. Give everything a little bit of a texture and something.
Bulk, yeah.
Yeah. You wanna pop my screen up, Chris? So I believe this is the exact one that I got.
Yeah, give me a second. Try to. My computer setup's a little goofy today, so there we go.
So I believe this is the one I got.
What's the name on that, so I can look it up?
Oh,
it's by Arduino.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's literally an Arduino kit.
It's a very catchy name. Arduino 2171188K000000.
I'll say that again.
Here, I'll toss this into the in there for you. So
And it looks like you've got some servos, motors, and assorted in there. So
yeah, so there's servos. There's
the servos are fun.
oh yeah. So there's servos in there. There's a bunch of light. Oh, my brain. Diodes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, you guys saw what I did as soon as I started playing with Arduinos, didn't you? I made Kit.
Kit from Knight Rider.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've upgraded it now. It now plays the theme when you turn it on.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's got to, right?
Yeah.
So is that was that for the 3D printed Pinewood Derby?
It was in the 3D printed Pinewood Derby, yeah.
How'd you do?
I mean, I wasn't in it to win it. I was in it to have a talking car, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, didn't you place decently well though? I forget exactly what you
I
did.
got 7th place overall.
That's not bad.
That's
Yeah.
not bad. And part of the reason was because the 9-volt battery, it was exactly at 5 grams. So I was racing in the official league.
Yeah.
And the 9-volt battery was placed high into the back of it, just because that's where it goes in a Trans Am. You know, that's where I had space. The front of the Trans Am where the engine is so big, but I didn't have an engine in there, so that was all empty space, and the battery was up and in the back in the hood. So that put the weight in the right place. So yeah, did okay.
So I'm actually in charge of planning a daddy-daughter date night, and our daddy-daughter date night, we're gonna do a Pinewood Derby, a daddy-daughter Pinewood Derby. And so I'm definitely looking forward to that. We're gonna have 2 different leagues. We're gonna have the official, 5 gram league, and we're gonna have the anything goes league. And so very excited to see what kind of turnout we get.
Now,
What's that, Josh?
I said duct tape a Barbie to it just cause. Hey, Barbie, she go fast. She can
I'm
go.
very much looking forward to seeing the artistic abilities of these girls that wouldn't normally get to compete in a Pinewood Derby, so they get to put their own spin on it. I'm looking forward to it.
Well,
Actually,
no.
I got a question for you, Josh, because I had a bunch. I don't know why, but I had a bunch of students ask me a bunch of questions. Flamingo Kid, good night. Good to have you. I had a bunch of students ask me this question, and for some reason, I had multiple classes. They asked me this question. They said, Mr. Carrell, is it STEAM or STEM? Because STEM, as you guys probably know, is science, technology, engineering, and math. STEAM is science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And the way that it was explained to me is the reason why you'd want to put art in it is because it doesn't do you any good to create this big, giant, blocky, ugly building. Nobody wants to go to a big, giant, blocky, ugly building. They want to go to a big, giant, beautiful building, and that's where the art aspect comes into it. I'd kind of like you guys' opinion on this.
I think it's absolutely essential because they all tie together. And yes, I'm bogarting the conversation. So I have a really heavy background in ceramics. So that's a 3-dimensional thing. And much like 3D printing, you have a lot of the same dilemmas. So when you're dealing with clay, it's very, very malleable at first. So you have very, very little tensile strength. You have very little load capacity. But as it dries, that changes. But then you also become incredibly brittle. So you need to understand, at least at an instinctual level, some of the concepts of science, or at least structural engineering and how those weights will be taken. I have a piece which, let me just grab. It was shattered in a house fire, but it's...
So while he's digging around over there, here's what I always tell people about STEAM versus STEM.
Yeah.
STEM will get you the Model T.
Yep.
STEAM will get you a Ferrari. And granted, without the art aspect of it, you can make something functional. and we could probably get by without it. But there have been entire apartment buildings leveled to the ground for being unlivable, even though they were perfectly functional. But they were so rigid and so boring that it drained people's life to live in those buildings. Now, I feel like we cannot ignore art in our education. And so if they're saying, well, we need a focus on science, technology, engineering, and math, I'm really happy that people stepped in and said, and art.
Yeah, well, I feel like they all tie together. I mean,
keep in mind that with STEAM, we are establishing the absolute bare minimum. Like, if we had no more money to do anything else, we should at least be doing this.
Yeah.
You notice STEAM doesn't include history. We'd have STEAM. It doesn't include, literature. STEAM.
The humanities.
Yeah, it doesn't, and those are also good, and those are also valuable. But we're talking about, like, if we had to go survival on our education, do not drop science, technology, engineering, art, and math.
Well, it has.
I have a conversation with my students actually quite a bit where they tell me my class isn't as important as some of the other classes, and this is my first year teaching robotics. In the past, I've only taught science, and I taught general science, so I taught chemistry and geology and whatever else. And they tell me science really isn't that important, and I say science is everything. I tell them science literally is every subject. You could drop every single subject in this school, but you keep science and they're not okay. And they say, what are you talking about? I say, everything is science. Name one thing that's not science. And every year I have students that try, they try and convince me that something isn't science. And I tell them, yeah, it's absolutely science. They're like, history. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's half of science is history, and they'll say, what about PE, Mr. Carroll? And I'll tell them, of course, there's so many physics involved. One of the wrestlers a couple of days ago, wrestling. How's wrestling science? And I'm like, you ever notice how some positions you get your opponent in, you have more leverage than others?
Well, here's a good one for you, Mr. Carrell. Hot dog eating, competitive eating. Okay. Go back to the guy. What was the name of the guy who changed the game? He approached competitive, like, before people were like eating 6 or 8 hot dogs in their competitive eating, and he approached it with a scientific and sportsman approach. He treated it like a sport, and he thought, how can I refine it? How can I do something different? Do you know how he refined it? This is disgusting. Hot dog, glass of water. You were given water to wash it down with. Removed hot dog from bun. Swallow hot dog whole. Take bun, soak in water so that you can suck it down. And he went up from like 5 or 6 to 20 and 30 hot dogs in the same amount of time being. Now, it's disgusting.
Yeah, but it's brilliant science behind it.
Exactly. It was science. It was inquiry. It was testing. It was pushing yourself a little bit further. It was amazing. And it literally changed the game of competitive eating from being this fun thing that people did on Mardi Gras to being a sport.
Yeah, no, it's hardcore competitive.
Oh,
it is now. It wasn't then.
No,
all I can hear is, Phyllis, dip it in water so it'll slide down your gullet.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah, but it makes sense because you're knocking all the air out of it. You're making it a liquid so it'll fit better as opposed to taking up volume on its own. And then the hot dog itself, I mean, granted, it's solid, but you're not committing.
It's the shape of your esophagus.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, to go back.
The only thing you have to really get over is that gag reflex.
Yeah.
To swallow an entire whole hot dog.
Yep.
But it's not like
he trained, he practiced, and he treated it like a sport.
Okay. Well, also, magic.
Yeah.
People take the swords.
Oh.
And they straighten this up, and then they swallow the swords down.
And you train with a coat hanger traditionally, wire hanger.
So
yeah,
there's a bunch of things, and guess what? They had to go through and figure out how to do that.
Yeah,
you can't just go, oh well, I'm just gonna one day just try to swallow a sword. You don't do that. It's dangerous.
Penn and Teller will often say the difference between you and me is that you look at a magic trick and you do a little calculation in your head and you say, yeah, I'd spend 5 minutes trying to figure out how that's done. And he goes, I'll spend 8 hours trying to figure out how I'll spend 40 hours trying to figure out how it's done. And that's science. Everybody confuses science with chemistry. Everybody confuses science with experiments. Science is inquiry. Science is study.
Well, yeah. And it's taking those aspects that you've learned and figuring out how to apply them, how to make them applicable other places.
Yep.
You know, I mean, just it's all crosses over. I'm going to show and tell for half a second.
Yep.
So I made this ridiculous thing.
I was going to say, I got to bow out real fast, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Josh, I will catch up with you later. I definitely want to see whatever that is, but I'll have to catch it on the replay. So,
okay.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Yeah. Oh, so to go back to the point. So this was a full angel sculpture at one point that sat like this. And I was talking about tensile strength of materials.
Yep.
So as you can see, this entire area is unsupported.
Yep.
So I had to build this in stages, understanding my materials and my counterweighting as I did it. And this went through the Sonoma County fires. So it was exposed to temperatures in excess of like 2,000 degrees.
Wow.
And because of the materials used, was able to survive. But to go back to that whole STEM versus STEAM, you know, one of the reasons it survived was the first ceramics teachers I had really went to a materials kind of science philosophy on it. So most clays are made out of platelets. So think of fine discs that stack up. So the way we would assemble things or make things was kind of loosely based on that. So when you use a bag of clay, all your platelets are sitting in a brick-like pattern, and they're all stacked quite nicely. So one of the first things you do is you cut off your piece of clay and you knead it. Now, this changes the direction of all the platelets in play. And this is important because you're going to redirect them. So this flute, this round section here, was actually thrown on a wheel. So it was actually a donut that I threw. Now, one of the things you do when you're throwing is force the clay to the center, then bring it up and down and up and down. And this is called centering the clay. And essentially what you're doing is you're trying to get all the platelets to form these rings that are stacking on top of each other and changing that directionality so they're all going in the same rounded pattern. And that gives a lot of strength. When you make something like a bowl, if the clay in the center was not kneaded and you didn't center it correctly, you have this brick pattern that's kind of going like this as the pattern of my fingers, and then you have this round pattern. Now, I used what's called high fire ceramics, so they're just a lot higher temperatures. Low fire ceramics, when you typically have your prettier colors, are in the few hundred degree range, whereas the first firing for something like this is at about 1,200 degrees. To put that in perspective, you need about 800 to 900 to render a body to ash. And then a final firing is about 2,400 degrees. So the materials change and flex as a result.
Why do you know that, Josh?
Because I needed to. So as I said, if you don't knead your clay and you don't break up that directionality of the platelets and you're centering it, but you fail to center that certain middle bit, Clay tends to shrink when it's fired as you lose moisture, what have you, through a process called vitrification. So the straight ones will shrink in that pattern, and the circular will shrink in this pattern, and you'll get weird S-shaped cracks, and it starts tearing apart because the materials are in different patterns. So when you make a donut like that, you have a very structurally strong, goes through its firings, can be dropped repeatedly, as long as it's gone through your full firings. And that material knowledge allowed me to make products that wouldn't normally stand on their own. So the science behind the art was so important, I couldn't make this work. And because I was doing high firing, this survived over 2,000-degree fire during the Sonoma County fires.
Wow.
I mean, a house collapsed on this.
Wow.
And all that happened was it broke in half. So, I mean, the information you get from learning your sciences and applying that to art is insane. And then the art itself kind of makes you want to push your science. So I think they're hand in hand, if my overly long explanation makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Interesting, because like I said, my students were so, I don't know why they were so obsessed by this question today, but they just kept asking, is it STEM or STEAM? Is it STEM or STEAM? And there's this. I think there needs to be a huge shift in the schools, which I feel like it is coming, but they need to start prioritizing, STEAM, and maybe putting some of the others on the back burner. It's interesting how we're so focused on, you need to learn how to read and write, and you need to learn how to do math, but at the same time, it's like science is both of those. You need to be able to write effectively so you can communicate the results of your experiment, so you can log and keep track of the parts of your experiment. You need to be able to do math so that you can, look at the graphs and the functionality of your experiment and test it and evaluate it efficiently. And, for some reason, even though it's such a perfect medium for, the actual practical application of these skills, it's often overlooked and said, science is not as important as math or English. And it's like, why?
Yeah, so for you need all the above. Yeah. I mean, the scientific process, just learning that by itself, that's a freaking life skill.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's this joke in 3D printing about Facebook. The Facebook groups are normally pretty awful. And I'll talk to Jimmy, and one of his big bias is, cool, so what I did is I added this probe, then I added a new board, and then I flashed it, and then I did this, and this, and this, and this, and it's not working, and I don't know why. And science will tell you, well, you're changing multiple variables. Did you test each variable? Oh, you just did everything.
Instead of doing the one process and then the next process after you've already gotten that first process squared away.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron and I talked about this extensively, where it's really funny where people will be like, I was getting really good prints off my printer, and then I added a BL Touch, and I added this, and I added this, and I added this, and now after I've added all these mods, it doesn't print well. Yeah. Well,
somebody fixed my printer. Well, you did a bunch of crap to it that I don't know what to start.
Yeah. Start by undoing all of the crap that you just did to it.
well, no, I know that part, but it's just like, okay, well, first of all, what was the first thing you did to it? Okay. Then what was the second thing you did to it? I mean, but if you do one thing at a time, like we were saying, Josh, just do one thing, do another thing, do another thing, you'll get to where you need. Good example, my my MBot printer, the printer I got from Eddie Moser. A bunch of different things were wrong with it. The 3D printed parts that held the rods in place, those were all but one broken.
That'll do.
So I pulled off and modeled and made them thicker. So the original ones were about that thick, and I made them that thick on the sides. I went through several iterations of actually doing it because I made them bigger. Then I found out that there's a washer kind of there, but then my side, how that sets, I need to kind of have it kind of
so clearance issues, yeah.
Yeah, so I had to have clearance on this part, but then this part, and then so it's all right. Well, just kind of shrink this down. But then I also took just this flat piece that you take a pair of pliers and hold it in a ridiculously confined area to where the sheet metal is flat up top, so it's hard to get the pliers in there with the rods already in there. So what I did was I took and 3D printed it where it's got to where I can just put the nut into it, and I just tapped it in there with a hammer, and that held it into place. So all I have to do is use a screwdriver or an Allen key, whichever type of header you have for your screw, and get it into place. Got all those put on one by one as I went through, and had to get my belts on each one. That was done. Then I had to figure out why my hot end wasn't heating, which turned out to be underneath the wiring, how it was set up. The thermistor had a short in the wire because it was crushing. There's the wire exposed. So if I pulled on it, it fixed it. So I was like, okay, well, that's the problem. It's shorting out.
Yeah.
I also found out that the wires to the hot end were crushed and exposed. And I was like, oh. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So what I did was I had the thing over. I cut the spot right there. And then I stripped the wires and I put shrink tube on there. And then I got all of them connected. And then I put my shrink tubing on. And then I closed it up so it'll hold it better in place. That was done. And then I got my Chris was on this last week talking with me for our stream. I was trying to get it leveled up. The bed was, this is the back of the bed. The front of the bed, it tilted up. So I had to kind of get it leveled out. But the frame's kind of bent, so I took and put some steel on it to make it rigid. Because you get your outside part like this, but the inside part was a V like this, where there was no metal there. So there's no metal connecting the ends to make it more rigid. So one side was bent more than the other side. So then I fixed that part. And then I had to get it level, and the screw that they had going in there, well, I added, what was it, about 3 to 4 millimeters thick steel on there. Well, I had to compensate for that. So I had to take that screw and get that screw in a certain distance, which had a spring underneath. So I removed the spring, just moved things around so I could actually get that thing to work. So step-by-step process. I didn't just go, all right, I'm going to do this and this. I wanted to do one thing at a time, so I knew where I was at.
Yep. And that's what you should do. But with me, my biggest what the heck bias is, with the upgrades, because you're doing repairs and you're doing it correctly one thing at a time. But with some of these things you're tacking on, you're hiding problems. Like, I wanted to get a bed level probe for my G-Tech, and Jimmy's like, do you really need it? Because that can hide problems. And I'm like, oh, it's this, that, the other thing. And so my Z-stop, I literally just had to. And my screws, the problem was the Z-stop was just high enough that my screws were almost all the way extended, so my springs weren't really engaging. Massive bed level issue. And I'm like, oh, I can adjust that? So did that, and I can do however many prints before I actually need to level the bed again, because honestly, the springs weren't engaging, so it was hiding an issue that a bed level probe, well, just bed probe I should say, would have hidden. Because I was constantly leveling my bed couldn't figure it out, and it was because those springs were barely engaging. So, well, that and the G-Tech, the bearings are a single bearing instead of a dual bearing. So you've got this big fat rubber wheel with about that much bearing in it. So they flex a little bit. So I discovered the bed does this. So the one upgrade I did, other than just the nozzle, because it comes with the cheap $1 nozzle, is I got dual bearing wheels. I had to go 5 mil longer on the screws, so I had to get new screws. And I opted to get some nice zinc-coated steel ones, all that jazz, because I was finding I was just rounding the edges of the nuts, because they're just made out of an inexpensive metal. I mean, it's a good printer, but the parts are kind of cheap because
cheaply outsourced.
They're giving you a good price.
Yeah.
So they got to, I wouldn't say cut corners, but shave them lightly. So, I mean, when I replace those wheels, my God, oh my God, it becomes such a much more reliable printer. And it is a good printer to start with. You know, as I like to point out randomly, you know, it's the one they have on the ISS. So it's in space.
There you go. Well, and like what Jimmy likes to say is, whenever you go to level your bed, tighten your springs all the way tight, then go to level your bed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get it to where your nozzle comes down. Get, if you need to adjust something so it comes down closer, but then go, and that way you've got that tighter tolerance there. So whenever you go, you're not extending your springs all the way and like, I'm still not level. I don't know what to do. I can't fix this. Well, tighten them all the way down.
Yep.
I mean, I had done that. I did that with my A-net, and it did better.
Oh, I bothered the hell out of that, man. Yeah, I'm cool. I will buy you burgers if you let me play show and tell. Okay, this is my print. What is wrong with it? What is wrong with my printer? Okay, have more burgers and give me your lunch.
Yeah. You know, you guys actually bring up an interesting point, because the last thing that I wanted to do on the stream tonight is talk about what our role as content creators and influencers is, because a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was just last week, I don't remember, we were talking on the show, and we had said something about Facebook groups, and I immediately I went out and I said, you know what, if you are not willing to put in the time and effort to fix your printer, because 3D printers require a lot of maintenance, if you're not willing to put in that maintenance yourself, I don't feel like you should even own a 3D printer. And I think that's I kind of feel that way.
I agree with the heart of it. You have to be the right person to do 3D printing. I mean, if you go on YouTube or what have you, that's the argument everyone makes. They need love, they need time. You have to be fiddly. I don't know if I cut you off while you were talking.
No, you're fine. No, what Eddie had said, though, is he said, you know, that's kind of an elitist point of view about it. And he kind of called me out on it. And it kind of struck me because I've been thinking about this all week. And I don't feel like I'm wrong, but I feel like there's a way that I need to revise the way that I said it. And so what I'm thinking of is, you know, when you get a 3D printer, even if you don't know necessarily how to fix it, you need to be willing to try, and you need to be willing to learn. Because if you're unwilling to learn, I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I see on those Facebook groups, you know, I'm just going to throw my printer in the trash, or people selling them. You know, I've tried everything that I can. I just can't get any good prints off of it. You know, who wants it for this price? And I realized at that moment that even though I have a very small YouTube channel, I have a very small following. You know, right now we're looking at 3 people watching the stream, and I'm pretty sure that one of them is me. And you know, even though I have such a small following of people, I still am considered an influencer. I'm still considered, you know, a content creator that people look at me and they respect my opinion. They look up to my opinion. And so the responsibility really falls on me to do something. And so the question that I would like to answer as our final thoughts on the stream tonight, because I've got school in the morning and I've got to get to bed. It's after midnight where I'm at. And so the question that I want to answer before we leave is, what is our responsibility as influencers, as content creators for the 3D printing community? What do we have a responsibility to communicate to the people that trust us and respect our opinions?
Well, if I can throw an answer.
Right.
I like to skim Twitter a lot, and you see a lot of this kind of evolution of someone as they become more and more of an influencer, and it becomes almost in an antagonist relationship at times, and then a telling of people how they should or should not approach, and it doesn't even matter what subject matter, if it's D&D, cosplay, 3D printing, and I think that's something we should avoid. I think the big thing is I come here to have fun. I come here to express, dude, I made a ridiculous thing. You need to check this out. And people go, ooh, we totally like that. And I'm like, cool. I think what's really, I love the idea of thinking myself as anything of an influencer, but I try and always be polite. I always try and be courteous and encouraging. And I try to never say anything negative. And it doesn't mean that I'm not giving criticism. If you show me something and I see some, what I would consider flaws in the thing, the first thing I'm going to do is start with a compliment. I'm definitely going to end with a compliment. And I might go, I see this aspect here. And I might, and use a lot of I statements, as in this is my opinion kind of thing. They teach you that in like, I think like AA and stuff like that. Like, this is me, I'm not attacking you. And I try and keep it very positive, and I try and keep it encouraging. And the goal is not to gatekeep and be elitist, because I can understand how, Chris, your statement could be seen that way, even though it's not meant that way. Because with 3D printing, you kind of have to be the right kind of patient for it. Or have patience for it, I should say. To say you're the right person for it kind of gives this negative connotation. And the idea is always keep the door open. Always make people feel like they can belong. But just, I mean, 3D printing, you want to start 3D printing videos, always start with like a whole list of warnings and stuff like that. Like, you're going to have issues, you're going to have this. And it's almost like you want to say, hey, just be honest with yourself. That's where I like to start the statement. And is this for you? And I'm not saying, you can't do this. I'm just saying you're going to be frustrated. Because your 10-minute print might take 3 hours.
Yeah.
Or a week.
Yeah.
Or it takes 6 months, because that happened one time.
The mindset of some people are like, oh, 3D printing, that's going to be like fast. No, it takes time.
Yeah, and I've talked to some people in various communities, because I like cosplay. I find it fascinating. I don't do it, but I used to do theater work. So costuming is a background, prop making, stuff like that. And people love the alternative because of the material. And I'm like, by all means, totally get on it. Just be honest with yourself. Because there's other ways you could get to the end you want. Whatever you're trying to build, there might be a better material, a better thing, or something that you would just be more comfortable doing. And you have to phrase it in such a way that it doesn't make you sound like a total condescending, pompous
douchebag.
Yeah. So I think the big thing is just always be inviting, always be polite, Canadian.
Try to be understanding.
Although I live in America, so I get to be angry. But that's kind of always been my feeling. If I ever become a big person, influencer, whatever, if I actually start launching my YouTube videos again, which are all on private because of COPPA scariness, and that's a whole thing. My thing is just don't ever say something that's going to make someone feel garbage. Make them feel included, or make them feel like, it's not really my, thing. But you should allow your presence to be such that you're not ever doing, okay, you somewhere else. You know, that's always kind of my takeaway is don't get into fights. If you think something's worth arguing, argue from an argumentation and debate standpoint. Don't complain. Don't say you're wrong because I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing ceramics for like over 26 years. I started actually over 30 years. And I can barely say that because I started as a kid. But I'm not ever going to dump on someone who's not as good as me because I have 3 decades. And I'm not going to use that as a, well, you can't possibly say this because I have 3 decades. You might know more than I do. I mean, I've been 3D printing for about a year, but I came with knowledge from structural and other things that I was able to make applicable connections, and it made things work for me. So you could just be brand new and smoke me, just knock me out of the water. And you have to respect that as like any kind of influencer that, yeah. There's a funny little anecdote, and then I'll hand off the proverbial mic. Jimmy told me about this. He was with Joe, and they were at his shed, and he was having some issue with a print that just, things kept getting knocked off the bed. And Jimmy goes, "Did you enable Z-Hop?" And Joe just went, because it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, how many printers you have or what have you, you're always going to be outclassed by somebody. You're always going to something. So you need to stay frickin' humble and accept the new people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no matter what it is you do, there's always going to be someone that can do it better than you.
And you're going to get humbled painfully.
Well, so there's the song Leroy Brown, the baddest guy in the whole dang town.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he found someone bigger and badder than him.
Yep. Yeah.
You're not always going to be the best at everything. You just have to accept it. You know, you might be good at something. You might not. Try your best. I should say do your best. You cannot try your best because do or do not, there is no try.
I need to print a baby Yoda. It's on the list.
But I like to try to be helpful. John, you chimed in on the Mandalorian helmet, Josh, that I posted that someone was trying to sell for $70.
Yeah, that was.
It was a bad print. But I actually went back and looked at his stuff and went to his Facebook profile and checked out. He did have more things for sale, like Ray's lightsaber and other things. It looked way better. So much better. Yet he's selling this poor print for $70. Like,
yeah. For those of you who didn't see it, there was like a lot of chatter, and then the nozzle may or may not have partially clogged.
Yeah, under extrusion,
layer issues.
Oh yeah, so many. And then when he took the supports off, he left stringing parts down from supports that were just kind of ripped off.
You know, and
if he would have at least cleaned it up and done some filler primer on it, just do that and then sell it as a just ready for you to finish product.
$70 wouldn't have been bad. But I mean, unless you're using some really over-the-top filament, I mean, there was like, what, half a roll, 75% of a roll making that? Because I don't think that particular print required much in the way of actual stabilizing, you know.
The only parts you need for supports is around the eye slit there, but then right under these parts here where it cups.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could do it in the center part, but the only part you probably ever need is right in the very center of that. It's right where it's the top. And I know this because I watch a lot of Uncle Jesse's videos on him printing big helmets on his bigger machines. Also, watch. You know, I learn things from watching other people's videos. I want people to learn things from watching my videos. I want to be as helpful as possible to them.
Yeah.
And I didn't comment on the guy, send him anything degrading it. I mean, yes, I posted it on Twitter. I did not say who it was from. I made sure that nothing was showing.
No, I didn't have anything where I could backtrack it because I was tempted to. Because I'm like, you're selling a Mandalorian helmet print of a dubious quality for $70, and I actually did want to go hunting, but you didn't leave any data, so.
And I specifically do that.
Yeah.
If I'm going to show something like that, but you know, I didn't go and say to the guy, well, you shouldn't be selling this for this. I mean, I saw his other prints he did.
Yeah.
They turned out good. They didn't see the flaws and stuff. I mean, one bad thing about gray filament, it shows flaws.
Yeah. It's actually a plus when you're doing finish work.
Oh no, I know. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to see on.
It's hiding things.
It's hiding things. I printed the Mandalorian ship.
Mm-hmm.
I had issues like that on it. I mean, it kind of warped off of the bed some and kind of.
It's a weird shape too. But I mean, to go to what you just said, you're commenting you didn't leave data. I mean, we were both kind of smack talking him a little bit on Twitter, but not.
Oh, no, I agree, and I wasn't trying to smack talk him. I was smack talking the fact that he's got this.
The concept of what he was doing. Yeah,
and I've said if he would have done this, if he would have done this, if he would have done this, it would have been fine. And also, he's not credited. He did not credit the person who made it.
Yeah.
He didn't say, I made this, or credit said person.
Yeah, which was a point I saw you made that I really agreed with. But to just go back to the smack talk for a sec, we didn't really degrade him as a person. We were just talking about the merits of what he was doing. And I think
trying to charge that much money for it.
Yeah, and I think that was a very valid back and forth we had, because we weren't saying, oh, well, he's a, 4-letter word I can't say in front of Chris's students and assorted. It wasn't making it derogatory for that sake, which it's very easy to do on the internet. There's this old quote that if an argument goes on long enough, someone's going to be, referred to as Nazis and what have you. And you and I had an argument that was more along the lines of, the quality is limited. He could have done better. The price is not realistic for what he's serving. It was more of a practical, because like I said, I don't like to be negative. And if I am, it's going to be more of a constructive nature. And that's essentially what you did.
Is what you need. Just because you do something doesn't mean you need to get, praised or degraded. You get a constructive criticism.
Yeah.
Helps you figure out where you are doing wrong.
Yeah, because what's the thing?
At times it sucks getting constructive criticism. I understand it sucks.
You need it because,
to learn, you need to learn.
So in sports, they say practice is absolutely useless without some sort of revision to it. If someone is shooting video of you doing some sort of athletic event, you have the ability to break it down quickly and go, this is your flaw, this is your flaw. You're going to step a little further or not step as far next time. And the practice then gets value, And we need that criticism. I've been smacked down by a 14-year-old on Twitter, and I just went, okay, yeah, I effed up, you're right. And that's the other big thing. On Twitter, I hate it when I'm proven wrong. And to be called out by a 13-year-old, well, I think 14, but she was right. She was respectful. And I had to go, okay, yeah, I'm wrong. You're right.
You should have just said, okay, Gen Z.
Well, that's the thing. I want to avoid that because it just becomes you know, pardon my language, a pissing match, and no one gets value out of that.
No, no one does. No one wins whenever it's like that. But and that's the thing, you know, as content creators, as influencers, and as you said, like I don't consider myself an influencer. I consider myself a content creator and someone who tries to help the community and people who want to make things and create things, whether it is with 3D printing or doing things by just hand, like, you know.
Yeah.
If I'm sorry, I've not done stuff like Punish Craft where I make stuff out of foam. You know, if someone asks me, "Oh, well, how do you make this out of foam?" I would say, "Why don't you check out Bill Duran? He's got a bunch of different videos and all this free stuff you can see on how to make something." You know, so I mean, I don't know Bill Duran. I've not talked to him, but I've followed.
Neither have I, but he's cool, and I would totally pay money to meet him.
So there's all these different people. Like I can kind of help find a source for someone to do things. You know, I don't know everything. You're not going to ever know everything. It's just how it is.
Although it'd be amazing.
Oh, it would.
For like 5 seconds, can I just know everything?
You'd be a very condescending person.
Anyway. Because I teach middle school, I live my life in a very different environment. You know, I live my life in such an environment where it's constantly a bunch of kids trying to tell me why I'm wrong about everything in my entire life. And so
you're old and you don't know anything anymore.
Exactly. And so it's
Yeah.
really difficult. It's really difficult for me to kind of, I don't like living my life, you know, as two sides of a coin. I don't like living my life, you know, in two different ways. I always want to just be me. And it's hard to be me when you don't always like the way that I come out or the way that I come off. I've always thought that I've always been good at everything. And that's, you know, I'm not trying to brag about it. I'm a very fast learner, very quick study. And so I've always, you know, quickly picked up on something and gotten good at it, but I've never been great at anything. I've never reached that top tier in anything that I've ever tried. I've always learned how to do it really quickly and been competitive, but I've never been great at anything. And so to put myself in a position now where I do feel like I'm an influencer because, you know, I have 120 students that I talk to every single day, and they all know that I do YouTube. They all know that I 3D print stuff. And I have lots of students that are buying 3D printers that just got them for Christmas because I have 3D printers. And then they come looking to me for advice and help, and not just them, but, you know, other people that I see online that I meet. It seems like every day I see somebody else is following me on Twitter, and I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know why they think that I'm important enough to follow, but, you know, I feel like I have a responsibility. And I think it basically boils down to kind of what Josh was saying. We have a responsibility to be supportive and be helpful, and be nice, invite them in, invite the positive, invite the positive, I guess, is what we have a responsibility to do, and try to uplift and make people feel good about their accomplishments, and help whenever we can. And I think that one thing that I really struggle with is offering advice when it's asked for, because I oftentimes, you know, because I feel like I'm good at that. So why would you not want my advice? You know what I mean? When
very humble.
You understand what I'm saying, Josh? Like I feel that way, where I'm like, I'm good at this. Why would you not want my advice? And you know, I obviously overstep my bounds. I remember one time working at Home Depot where I mean, I didn't grow up learning how to do stuff. I wasn't always very handy, but like I said, I'm a very fast learner. So when I first got hired at Home Depot, they put me through this rigorous training course. They made me learn anything and everything about grills, about plants, and I became an expert at everything I could in a short span of, you know, 3 months. So I had barely gotten this job at Home Depot, and I felt like I was an expert at everything. And I would see another associate, talking to somebody about a grill, and I would, slide in and be like, oh, check out this knowledge that I have that obviously you don't, because I know so many things. And I've had multiple people pull me aside and be like, you can't do that. You make me look stupid in front of the customer. And I'm like, well, I wasn't trying to do that. I was just trying to help. And, as
you're taking away their light by outshining.
Yeah. And so I feel like, as influencers, because even if we only have a small tiny following, we are influencers, and what we need to do is help other people to feel the positivity that they have, let their lights shine, as it were, and really try to help people just kind of be the best that they can be, and offer advice when it's asked for. If it's not asked for, maybe we should just try and accentuate the positive and just leave them alone.
Yeah. And if you do ask and you get a non-committal, just, veer off. I mean, I'm going to look at shiny jobs for a moment. So I sell stuff for a living. I'm a mattress salesman. Not exciting, but whatever. A lot of people don't want to be bothered up front. So I'll do hey, how you doing? You need any help? Oh, you're just looking? Cool. I'll be floating around. Because, you don't want to be bothered by the salesman. But then you start giving these looks like, so there's like 100 mattresses here and they all look the same. What the heck am I doing? So I do a pass by, try and get a feel for the water, Still doing fine? Cool. Or they'll start asking questions and I'll go, hate to butt in, but this, just in case you're curious. Or I'll just make a personal comment or something like that, like, oh yeah, my mom would hate this too, kind of thing, or what have you. And my job is literally testing the water all day with people. And a lot of it is realizing there's a lot of the time they don't want me to talk. And when you have good advice and you see someone making issues, like ceramics, I'll take the odd ceramics course from time to time at a local college because they have equipment I'm not going to pay like 10 grand for. So I just have 10 grand. So I'll be with first timers and I'm like, oh my God, you're doing this horrible. What are you doing? If you drop that needle tool in the wheel, it's going to spin around and gouge your eyes out. So that'll quickly say something. But at the same point, my advice is awesome. It's 3 decades of awesome. But it's not wanted. I've got to go bugger off. And I think as an influencer, at a certain point, you've just got to go, I think I'm awesome, but yeah, I just got to bugger off. And that's really hard to do some days.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, so
I know all the things.
Here's a good analogy. So this popular person on YouTube does carving and this, that, and the other. I'm not going to name who it is. I made a comment. I made a comment on a video that they had put out about on carving. Well, they were using carving tools, that and the other. Just okay, you're doing this, so kids are watching your show, and older people, but you're carving towards yourself.
Yes. Oh God, no.
Oh, no, this person went off on me on it, and it's like, well, whoever, and I had mentioned that I was in Boy Scouts. And it's like, well, then your scout, blah 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 blah. Well, it's just wrong, and it's like, I know you're learning from people that have good experience on doing all this stuff, but you are doing this and not even putting the label of saying, I am a professional. I have been taught by professionals something on how to do this. I know what I'm doing. Don't try this at home. You have to learn.
Yeah.
One, you don't whittle towards yourself. You can carve kind of towards yourself if you're carving. But this person was like, "Whittle. If you've got something like this where you're pulling, like that's a different thing. But when you got where you can slip and cut yourself, especially if you're right up, by yourself.
And it can seem like a very subtle difference, like applying pressure, because don't cut towards yourself. Don't cut towards yourself. So like 6 or 7 scars here. So I totally understand where you're coming from. But yeah, you can do certain moves very gently towards yourself that are safe. But if you're not qualifying those statements, or those, I should say, actions, you're giving bad advice. And like my YouTube videos, which you cannot see any of them because they're all private right now, I stress the hell out of PPE, personal protective equipment. If I'm doing something that's moderately dangerous, I will state that it's dangerous, state why that is dangerous, what I should be doing, So the giant 6-foot sword, I was using materials that spray paint, assorted things you should not inhale. So I was explaining that as I was going along, because as you were saying to safety, just to expand on what you were saying, I have kind of a duty to make statements on that stuff. Like
you need ventilation.
Yeah, well, like right now, all my videos are private because of COPPA, because of kid compliance, all that jazz. Because a lot of my videos are mixed audience, so I'm going to have minors looking at things because I make ridiculous toys, and kids are going to want to make them. And I'm playing with spray paint. If you've never played with spray paint before, you're a minor, you may not know that it is the worst stuff to spray in an enclosed area.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like I have to stress safety, because I don't know if you're 30 or 3 or somewhere in between, or significantly older or younger. So, I mean, to go back to what Chris was saying as, kind of duties and what we need to be as influencers, we have to point out the things that a parent would kind of point out, in the sense of not everything we're doing is safe. And just a liability at the beginning saying, don't try this at home, kids. Let's be honest. I just said, go try this at home, kids.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, this is R-rated, immature, material not for, use, or whatever the standard was. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to totally watch the hell out of that.
Yeah.
So when I do dangerous things like carving, I talk about, because I actually carved foam for this, carving away from myself. The one time I carved towards myself, I talked about what I was doing to try and make it safer, how my arm was an extension, how I was applying very little pressure, things that I can do just to make you think, maybe I shouldn't open an artery today with foolishness.
And also, all right, so I know you should probably know this. Chris, do you know this? Which will you get cut by faster, by easier? A sharp knife or a dull knife?
I was going to say dull knife before you even asked the question.
It is a dull knife, because you're going to slip on what you're doing, which is one reason why you don't want to cut towards yourself. You cut away from yourself. And you got to be careful, because when I'm saying cutting, I'm saying you cut. I'm not saying whittling, because if you're whittling, you can kind of like whittle like this, kind of.
Yeah, you're like notching almost, very small action.
Yeah, whittling is different than cutting, but cut away. And if you can whittle away from yourself, it's even better, because you're going away. But yeah, a dull knife will cut you faster than anything, because it will be a slick of snot coming off that piece of wood, and it's gonna go through your nice soft skin and cut into you.
It's gonna stick until it sticks you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're having a good conversation, but it's almost 1 in.
Yep.
And I got school in the morning. So I think we're gonna have to go ahead and end the stream. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining us. Those 4 of you that are still hanging out, I appreciate it. We all do. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Next week, we're going to be down at Aaron's channel. So please join us. There's a link in the video description. And Josh, if you'll message me sometime, either on Twitter or whatever, with your information for any type of social media you'd want to link people to, I'll throw it in the video description as well. Shoot me a message or whatever, and I'll make sure I get that updated. Thank you so much for joining us. What's that again?
Send me a DM on Twitter because I'm not going to remember because I'm horrible, or someone else could do it. But I just want to give you guys just thanks for having me. That's totally cool. I had fun chatting with you guys.
Oh, yeah. I've been wanting to have you jump on for a while, and I was like, Josh, let's see what Josh is up to.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, it was a blast.
We enjoyed having you on, and enjoyed having 3D printing professor on again.
That dude is cool.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's such a good guy.
And it's like humble cool, where it's weirdly approachable, and it's like, dude, you're too awesome. Don't talk to me. I'm not worried.
He is too awesome. He's one of those guys that he just got this light shining about him. He's one of those guys where you can't talk to him and not like him, you know?
Dude, I met him at Bay Area Maker Faire this last year. I geeked out hard and like tried not to slobber on myself, you know. And then he liked my 3D printed hat that I was wearing at the thing and talked to me about it and elements that he liked. And I'm like,
yeah,
a little scroll girl.
Yeah.
Oh my God, little schoolgirl. Yeah, right. That's if I got super manly. It was like crush, like. So cool. I watched all your videos. I wouldn't know how to do anything. Yeah.
One of those girls crushing over a boy band.
Yeah. It's him.
Reframing from that. Yes.
Nice. All right. So anyways,
thank you much, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much, Josh, for coming on.
Hi, anytime. Just bug me at the last minute or whatever.
That sounds good, man. Well, we look forward to having you on the show another time. So appreciate it.
Okay. Well, good night, guys. I'm going to take off.
All right.
Yeah. Everybody have a good night. We're out of here.
All right. Bye, everybody.